All right, starting off today's episode, I'll be chatting through the running backs that we are going to be targeting for Week 6 fantasy. Kicking it off with Kenneth Walker here, who I view as a potential league-winning asset. This is a very, very critical priority add here for teams that I think you absolutely have to, once again, prioritize at the top of your waiver wire pickups. He is currently rostered in just 44% of Yahoo Fantasy leagues, and I believe will be taking over this Seahawks backfield moving forward. Now, Kenneth did rip a big 69-yard touchdown run against the New Orleans Saints defense this past week. He totaled 8 rushes for 88 yards in the day, and being the second running back selected in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Seahawks have confidence in what he can do for this offense. He's a very complete player, an explosive one-cut back, as we saw this weekend, and a player who can also factor into the receiving game as well, should they implement that into their offense here moving forward. So Walker, for me, far and away the best long-term running back asset for fantasy in Week 6 fantasy football, rostered in under half of leagues again on Yahoo Fantasy. Go pick him up, make him your top ad for the week, and get yourself a key player at a key position here. Moving into Raheem Mostert. Now, Raheem is the most heavily owned player on the list for today's episode. I had to toss him out there, so I don't want to hear anyone in the comment section below this week saying, hey, none of these players are available in leagues. They're rostered and have been drafted in all formats. Not true. I'm pulling these analytics from a very popular fantasy exchange. I actually compare Yahoo and ESPN rostership numbers, and Yahoo tends to have significantly higher rostership. So for Mostert, he's 1 point below 70%. I get that he's not going to be out there in all of your formats. Again, he is the highest owned player in any league format for this year currently. But the reason I want to toss him out here is because he's rostered in about 20% fewer of leagues compared to his backfield mate Chase Edmonds. Now, Chase Edmonds is rostered in 88% of Yahoo Fantasy leagues right now. But Raheem Mostert is the running back to have. He is the running back to have on your fantasy team if you're going to roster a Miami Dolphins backfield mate. And Mostert has clearly asserted himself week after week here as a more dominant threat in this team's rushing attack. If we take a look at this backfield right now, he has 70% opportunity share for 122 yards and a touchdown this week. Again, asserting and establishing himself further as a player who weeks 1 through 4 saw his snap count percentage rise every single week, while Chase Edmonds declined every single week. So target Raheem Mostert in your leagues where he's available. I'd say anything 10-man or above would be worth a roster spot, maybe even an 8-man league with bye weeks coming up here, and now having a greater dependency and urgency on some of these depth pieces at key positions. Brian Robinson, again here above the 60% marker. I like to stay below this, but another critical add for me. Didn't do much this past week. However, he did lead the team in carries and rushing yards. It was just 9 carries, though. He wasn't super efficient, but hey, the dude has been coming back from a significant injury, and we got to be patient with him. He is 100% worth a bench stash here for now, and until we wait to see how this Commanders offense shakes out, I'm giving him a place in my lineups in 10, 12-plus man league formats or leagues with a deeper bench space. So, again, I get that these aren't the 2 most available players in your leagues, but the players coming up here should be more widely available for you. Diving into Tyler Allgeier here next, below the 60% threshold. Had himself a very quiet game here in Week 5, and I wouldn't actually be surprised to see his rostership dip this week because I think people are going to overreact to the lack of production and overall points put up in your fantasy lineups for this week. Now, we had Allgeier as a sit candidate this week. I wasn't expecting the most flattering numbers in the world. And, you know, the reality of the situation here is that this Atlanta backfield without Cordero Patterson is somewhat of a committee. We saw Avery Williams, we saw Caleb Huntley both factored in here doing various things in this lineup, but it was Allgeier leading the way with 13 rushing attempts on the ground and being the player that I think is the most valuable roster space taken up by a backfield member of this Falcons offense from now until Cordero is able to return from the injured reserve list designation. So Allgeier didn't have flashy numbers this week. Like I said, we had him as a sit. I didn't think it was going to be super awesome production against a tough Tampa front who bounced back after a tough week against Kansas City the game prior. However, with, again, bye weeks coming up here, starting to play a factor for the first time this season, this is something I'm looking at. Is running back depth is going to be definitely not something that's growing on trees here. Eno Benjamin rostered in 10% of leagues right now. This is a definite add for those of you who have James Conner in your lineups or simply are playing in 12 or more player leagues. This is a prevalent issue moving forward, is the health of James Conner and his availability. Ended up sustaining a rib/chest injury and not being able to factor in much late in this contest. So for Benjamin, he was the guy that went out there, had over 53 yards in the absence of Conner, and was putting up points, having usage, and being the predominant back on the field. Now we've got Darrell Williams there as well, but it looks as if Eno Benjamin is the next best option for this team. We kind of had this situation earlier in the season with James Conner's ankle injury, but it seems as if Benjamin's pulled away and separated himself as this team's number 2 running back for the Arizona Cardinals offense. So for me, again, if you're looking for a handcuff for James Conner, who continues to get nicked up here, Benjamin is a strong option again in those deeper formats. And I'll say it, I've said it 5 times at least already in today's video, running back depth is a needed area of assessment on your teams. Bye weeks are going to be killer. It's like a shock, a slap in the face, dumping cold water all over you when you just woke up out of bed in the morning. It sucks. Running backs are few and far between. There's so much positional scarcity here from this point moving forward. So whenever you can stash an extra name on your bench spot and slate for your rosters, make sure to do so. Now into 2 Denver Broncos running backs. Mike Boone for me is a pretty interesting add here at a 36% rostership right now, again on Yahoo Fantasy. He had 10 touches on Thursday Night Football for 85 scrimmage yards, so pretty good efficiency there, 8.5 yards per touch. That's combining his rushing and receiving involvement. And the one question I have for myself here is the role of Latavius Murray. So while we're talking about that, we'll segue into him here. His rostership is 19% right now. Basically, my suggestion for you here would be to grab one or the other. If you're in a league where Mike Boone got scooped up last week, target Murray if he's available. If both are gone, that really sucks. You've probably got some savvy league mates, and it's going to be a struggle to add that depth regardless. But for me, the one wrench I could see Latavius Murray throwing in Mike Boone's availability, or not his availability, but his reliability for lineup production or the potential to do so, is the fact that Latavius is such a good power back in short yardage situations and in the goal line opportunities. So for me, I could see Murray being a touchdown vulture for not only Mike Boone, but Melvin Gordon as well. I could see him being utilized in 3rd down and 2, 3rd down and 3 type situations. Boone is a much more elusive back per se, someone who can get out in space and be a bit more of a slippery player, whereas Latavius Murray is all, thumping in between the tackles and looking to use his physicality and stature as a weapon against the defense. So I think both of these players have the potential to be valuable roster adds here. Again, it's personal preference. I just have this gut feeling and suspicion for Latavius Murray, who didn't play this past Thursday night due to such a quick turnaround. He played a London game Sunday morning against the Minnesota Vikings as a member of the New Orleans Saints. That's why he's in a Saints jersey here. There's literally not even practice photos available of him in a Broncos uniform yet. So it was a quick turnaround, 3.5 days, whatever you want to call it, from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, playing a game on Thursday, which again, he did not suit up for. I expect, though, after having a second week here of integration into this offensive system, he'll be someone that should be suiting up in uniform for Denver, and we'll see once he has understanding of the playbook what his role is. So maybe today Mike Boone's the better option. I would still target Murray, though, if Boone's scooped up in your league, because again, I do see a niche role for Latavius on this Broncos roster.